Welcome to the True Talk Podcast. Here's your host, Jenna.
Hey everyone, welcome back to True Talk Podcast. I'm your host, Jenna. And if you haven't already and you're new here, I want you to hit that follow button, subscribe, like, whatever button is there. Hit it so that you never miss anything with the True Talk Podcast, and make sure you are a part of the True Crew. There's so much fun stuff that's coming. I can't wait to share it with you all, but without further ado, we're going to get into this week's episode. I have with me a fellow podcaster with Your Day Off podcast. I have Corey here and my newest team member, Sophia.
Hi.
So they are both part of the hair industry world. Corey has been a part in the hair industry for 30 years. He started his Your Day Off podcast back in 2018 and just has a great story and so many inspiring and motivational things. I don't even know how to say it.
I don't know, but that's
mantras.
a lot of pressure you just put on me, you know. I mean, now I've got to be motivational and stuff.
Well, I mean, just from the 5 minutes I spoke to you the other day, I was motivated.
Oh, awesome.
And then my newest team member, Sophia, just recently got her license and met Corey at an event in Orlando from a competition that she won. It's a really great full circle moment. So I'm so excited to be here and have both of you on the podcast. So welcome to the True Crew, everybody.
Dude, am I part of the crew now?
You are. Wait till the merch comes out,
really?
And it's coming for you.
True Crew.
I got you.
True Crew.
I got you.
I dig it. Well, thank you. Thanks for having me. Sophia, thank you for introducing us and letting this happen.
Yes. So let's kick it off. Can you tell the listeners and viewers a little bit about yourself?
Sure. It'll be quick. But so like you mentioned, I'm a 30-year plus hairdresser. I've been in the industry since, I guess, the early 90s now is where we're at, right? And I started the podcast again in 2018. It was January 2018. And I was inspired to like give back to the industry, not in like a give back kind of way, you know, but like just inspired to teach. And like, I think I had a voice. I know what I wanted to, I didn't know what I wanted to talk about when I started the podcast, but, so I was an early adopter of podcasts. I started listening in about 2008, 2009, and I knew that I wanted to start a podcast for the hair industry, but I couldn't quite figure out what that conversation would be. You know, because up to that point, all the conversations that we had at the industry or how we trained was with angles and with color and stuff. And where, you know, I thought that'd be interesting for one podcast. I didn't know how you could have a sustained kind of like podcast career talking about angles and colors, and it seemed really boring to me, to be honest. And then what happened was I have a friend who has a pretty big following on Instagram, and he in 2017 he says, "Hey, I'm going to be in town. I'd love to see you." So I went to visit him, and we were hanging out, and all day long, people were handing me their phones. I was like his professional photographer for the day,
really?
Right? Yeah. So I was like, when I left that event, I was like, that's it. Like, yeah. I want to start a podcast. The light bulb went off. Exactly. It was, and I was inspired by it, and I go, oh, like people care about like these people, whoever these people are. You know, so I went to my friend Tony, who's not with us today. Not that he's dead, because that sounds weird. But
I'm glad we put that in. Disclosure.
Yeah, exactly. He's not dead. So I went to Tony, who's my co-host of the podcast, and I was telling him my idea. Like I pitched it to him as like, I want to be the Jimmy Fallon of the hair industry. And rightfully so, he said, you know, if we're going to do this, you know, we've got to bring heart, we got to bring value to the conversation. So literally before the podcast even started, like it changed, right? And like, because he was absolutely right. Like, this has to be the conversation. What are we giving if we're not bringing value? You know, it can't be about our own egos. It can't be about our own, let's just go have fun. Like, we've got to bring some value. And I was like, that's mind blowing. That's exactly what we did. And as we like arranged or scheduled our guest, that was in mind. You know, our funnel completely changed. The funnel wasn't about like, let's see what influencers we can get on there, but what conversations can we have, and what kind of value can we bring people?
I love that, because I resonate with that so much, with the story and my whole journey, which a lot of you know. But the whole reason of starting the podcast was to give back, to be able to share what I've learned and give people motivation and just that belief in their mind that you can achieve things. Don't let anything stop you. And we're definitely going to get into that because of your mantra that I love that you told me about the other day.
We'll get into it.
But my lovely newest member of the team, Sophia, how are you?
I'm doing pretty good today.
Are you excited?
I'm so excited.
She's had a couple Red Bulls. She's been a little like that. She's excited. That isn't excitement. That's
she's
like
our little
caffeine.
energizer.
Yeah, exactly.
I love it, and I'm so happy you're here. So tell me, what was it like in Orlando, me and Corey and all these other incredible people?
It was awesome. Actually, I walked straight into the recording room where he was, and I was finally meeting him in person, and I have a Snapchat filter in my face, one of those really ugly filters, and I'm like, we're going to be best friends, because I was just putting that filter on people the other day and posting it without anyone's permission. So it was the ugliest filter I've ever seen in my life.
No, they were fun, though. They were so much fun.
I know, they were amazing. So we really kicked it off with that, because if I feel like you can match my energy, we're gonna be just fine.
We're gonna vibe.
Yes.
We're going to be best friends.
Exactly.
We were vibing. It was all good. I'll tell you about her, which is really cool too, is that we put her in some pretty cool rooms in the hair industry, you know, and she was like not shy at all.
No.
I mean, like she was like, oh, I want to meet that person. I'm going to meet that person. And I kind of sat back and I was like, oh, that's a vibe, man. That's all right. You know, there was no shy. And these are like people that she's looked up to. These are people that I don't want to use the word idolize, but people that she's looked up to or been inspired by. And certainly even early on in the podcast, when I was in the same rooms, like I was still a little hesitant, but dude, she like I kind of had to slow her down a couple times. I'm like, yo, slow your roll, bro. We'll get there. But no, it was really cool. It was inspiring watching that. And and for the record, and I think we talked about it, like my favorite thing in the world to do is to introduce people.
Oh,
know?
really?
Yeah. So and literally like introduce and then I bolt. Like I don't hang out. Like I don't need to be part of the conversation because it's not about that for me, you know. But then if I can then introduce someone to their like idol, it's even cooler, right?
Yeah.
Like. And you get to kind of watch them like this. It's cool.
Like
it's
shake
really cool.
their knees start to buckle.
I go, hey, there's my friend. I'm not going to throw you. Well, I am going to throw you under the bus. There's my, and I go, oh yeah, well, I know him. We'll go meet him. And she was like, she went right over. I was
down.
Like, dude, she left me in the dust. I was like, I mean, it's way cooler if I make the introduction. I promise you.
Right. That's awesome.
That's crazy.
So, okay, you know what? We're not even going to waste time. Start with your mantra. Change is not scary.
Oh, yeah. So, about change.
Yes.
Yeah, that's a good one. So, and it's just the truth, right? Like change isn't about what's next. It's never about what's next. What change is giving up a belief system that you had prior to, right? So, like I've never, like change is exciting. Like what's new is exciting. It's like the first date or when you're in love. Like that's change. You know, the hard part is giving up that belief system or giving up what you once thought that you believed in. You know, and once I made that connection, it makes everything so much easier. And also, what it does is it gives you something to think about when you're starting to feel resistance about change. Right. You know, when you start to, wait, this isn't about what's new, because we think that, right? We're like, that's something new. I'm scared of. You're not scared of what's new. You're scared of what, and the unknown is what you're giving up.
Yeah.
The unknown is what experience am I missing out on? Or I've put this belief system in this whatever, and now I've got to push that aside, right? And once I push that aside, now it feels like a free fall. It's not really a free fall, but that's what it can feel like.
So let's go into the Your Day Off podcast.
Uh-huh.
You started it because you had that light bulb moment of wanting to share with other people in similar fields, similar industry. Mm-hmm. And from where you started to where you are now, and how many conversations you've had over these
550.
years. 550.
Yeah, we've done 550 episodes, yeah.
That's a huge milestone. I hit 15 and I was like, somebody give me a medal here. Like, I didn't even think I would get to 10. 550.
Well, I think all success is around consistency.
Yes.
So like no matter what you step into, like it has to be consistent, and the beginning of consistency kind of sucks, right? It's hard to do. By the way, it's probably coming up with a new belief system.
Yeah.
Like it's also humbling, like especially on social media. Like if you want to get more viewers on TikTok, for example, to promote your business or whatever you have going for you, you feel kind of like an idiot at the beginning almost, because you're like, I feel like I'm not getting a lot of views. What am I doing this for? But you're like putting that belief system aside and being consistent with yourself, because the more consistent you are, obviously, like those people you're gonna start popping up on those people's pages more because it's gonna be on the For You, and then there you are.
Yeah, I mean, it is about consistency, and social media is a whole nother thing. I have some thoughts about social media as well.
Mm-hmm.
It's a love-hate kind of thing. I'll be honest. I think
I agree.
That's it. So I mean, we've done a ton of conversations. Some of the conversation I'm really, really proud of.
Mm-hmm.
As early as 2018, we were having conversations about sobriety. We were having conversations about mental health. We were having conversations about gender identities. Like, it was stuff that the industry as a whole wasn't having. And by the way, I don't think that we're an innovator in this. I just think we're at the right time to have these conversations.
Right.
But I don't ever recall in a public forum anybody in the industry talking about these things.
Yeah.
Now you see it a lot. You see it a lot on like social media and stuff. But we certainly were right there at the beginning, like having those conversations, having those tough conversations. And what's neat about it is that people have permission to talk about it.
Yes.
Which is kind of the hardest thing.
Yeah.
I mean, we interviewed a guy named Michael Cole, and he's like a legend. I've been
mm-hmm.
following him. He's a coach. He's a business coach, and I've been following him my entire career, literally my entire career. He came on and for the first time ever went public on our podcast about his sobriety and his struggles and his stuff. And it's definitely like one of the proudest ones that I've had, again, because the industry just wasn't talking about it in a public forum before that, And
that you were able to create that safe space for him to feel comfortable and open to speak on it. And it's so funny, not funny,
I got
but that you mentioned opening up that public forum and that platform to speak on those topics, because being that I've spoken about it in past episodes before, but I went through my journey, my autoimmune disease journey, still technically on it, and in my culture, in the Greek culture, it's very, very well known that you do not speak on whatever goes on inside the house. It's private. You don't talk about it. But if I saw how I was feeling and how I was struggling with going through all the testings and the side effects from the medications and depression, all of that. And I'm like, God, if I'm going through this, I can't imagine what other people are going through. I don't agree that, we got to keep it within the four walls. I need to be able to talk to other people. And that was one of the things with calling it True Talk, is I allow my guests and whoever and whatever I talk about on here to be as open and as vulnerable as they'd like. Because just speak truthfully, speak honestly. There's no rhyme or reason to keep things quiet. What is that going to help?
Well, I mean, by the way, I grew up the same way. Like, what happened in the house, like, stayed in the house. Like, nobody talked
and
about
I get that with certain things. Privacy.
Absolutely.
Right.
But there's also a recovery past that. Like, what am I willing to talk to? What am I willing to talk about? Who am I willing to talk about?
Yes.
So there's a little bit of like evolution that has to happen there.
Yes.
In what you want, what you shall talk about. early on, I was very much that way. I thought that was just the way it was. Like, you know, that was my home. Like, I didn't know that, you know, we weren't supposed to talk about things, you know, certainly when it came to that kind of stuff. But, you know, more importantly than talking about it is listening for it. You know, like my view is like, well, this conversation needs to happen.
Yeah.
You know, and it's not for the person that we're talking, you know, bring Michael back up again, you know, drug and alcohol have been a huge problem in the industry, you know, and I thought that it was important that we brought somebody on that could talk about it, you know, and it was kind of an accident. Like, I didn't know. You know, I called him up. I go, hey man, you know everybody. You know, here I'm thinking about. We did a whole month. We called it Sober October. So for the entire month, we talked about people that were struggling with their own addictions.
Yeah.
And I just reached out to Michael and was like, hey man, you know everybody. You know, who do you know that would fit this bill that'd be willing to talk? And he said, I would. I'll use my 12th step. And I go, oh, I was blown away by it, you know, because again, this is the guy that I looked up to, this guy that appeared to have it all together, right? Like, he's a business coach, he's all that stuff. So to think about this, and it was a really honest conversation, and he allowed me to be hard on him too, you know, like I was able to go at him a little bit about frankly his own bullshit, you know, and we talked about that a lot. So that was cool. Again, one that I'm really proud of, but we've had many conversations on the podcast like that. You know, that was just kind of the first one, like, oh, we can do this, right? Because we needed the confidence, too, that we could have these conversations.
Right.
You know?
To kind of give you that push and confirmation to be like, okay, yeah, we're good. We can talk about this.
We can talk about things, you know?
Yeah.
And to do it where you're not offensive to the person that's talking.
Respectful.
Yeah, completely. But, you know, I mean, you kind of think if they're willing to talk, like, we're never going to push a conversation, you know, but if you're willing to talk, you know, we certainly will prod a little bit, you know.
Yeah.
And, you know, I whenever we're doing podcasts, I'm kind of thinking like, what's missing here? What's the question? And my thought is that I'm not gonna avoid a question, because I know that there's somebody in the audience that's thinking about it, right? So that's kind of what I go with, you know. Again, not to be. I don't think I've ever been rude to anyone, but you'll have to ask everyone that we've talked to. I try to be respectful.
I don't think I have either, but if any of my guests feel a certain way,
me.
Hey now.
Hey now.
We just met, okay?
Fair.
Pardon that.
Fair.
So I'm curious, with such a longevity of a career and including the podcasting in there, I'm trying to think of how I want to word it.
I made her nervous because I said she offended me. Now she doesn't
little
want to
bit,
offend me.
a little bit. Now I'm sweating. Not gonna lie. No, my fingernails are sweating. With such a longevity of a career, and including the podcasting of 550 episodes, what drives you? What gets you out of bed in the morning?
I mean, I think it's that. I mean, you know, with the 550 episodes, like, I think I would have got bored long ago if we weren't bringing value. Yeah. You know, like if I didn't think we were having important conversations, and that doesn't mean that all of them are, like, you know, important, you know, or whatever, but, you know, being able to share value with the industry, being able to share good conversations and good content with the industry, you know. One of the takeaways from 550 episodes is that everybody has faced failure, or how they look at failure, right? Or that they've been set back a little bit. And you know, we've been very lucky that most of the people that we've talked to on the podcast have very successful careers, or you know, just done well in the industry. So, you know, you wouldn't think that they had any adversity. Like, we think like whoever's standing on top didn't have adversity, which is the exact opposite. Yeah. You know, adversity builds character. You don't stand on the top unless you have that character.
I also feel like being around motivational people that are successful, whether it's just being motivational, like, it doesn't even need to be about money, but success actually being a motivational human, being around those people also helps you want to get out of bed in the morning and be around those people and better yourself, whether it's, like, I think you were saying one time, letting over someone in traffic, like letting them merge, but not for any brownie points. Yeah, not for any brownie points, but just because, hey, I wanted to let them over.
Well, yeah, I mean, I think so so often we can let a second ruin our day, or we can let a second ruin a
Like if they
minute,
don't
or we
give you
can
that
let a
wave.
second. Right,
Yes.
right. So, kind of the way that I think about that is that I don't approach the world with any kind of like give back. Like I don't need anything. I'm pretty confident in the shoes that I walk in. So, if I open the door for someone and they don't say thank you, or if I let someone in on traffic and they don't say thank you, I don't let it ruin my day, because if that's the reason why you open the door for the thank you, you were opening the door for them for the wrong reason, as far as I'm
Right.
concerned, right? It's like there's in life, we are either investing or we're gifting. And when you open the door for somebody, it should be a gift, not an investment.
Yes.
Right? And any time that there's an expectation of a return, it was never a gift.
Exactly.
It,
Exactly.
it was always an investment. So I had to like kind of switch my thinking about what are gifts and what are investments. And you should, I think you should always gift strangers. Invest in your family, invest in the people in your circle, but always gift strangers, because there's nothing to get back except a thank you.
Speaking on investment, how are you investing in yourself?
Listen, I've got a very full life.
Yeah.
I'm a very happy husband, very happy dad. I'm very happy
Happy
with.
belated Father's Day.
Oh, thank you very much. Now we have 2 grandchildren, which are amazing.
Congratulations.
Here's what I learned through grandkids. Maybe you guys will learn this too. Is that we always think of like love as a cup or some kind of, but it's not that, because it can grow.
Yes.
Right? Like love it grows you. It makes your heart bigger, I think the Grinch said, right?
Yeah.
2 sizes larger or something?
Yeah.
So mine's 2 sizes larger because of grandkids,
It's like, I don't know why, but in my mind's eye just now, I saw a tree, like just new branches. Like I think of the heart as a tree, and
I like that.
certain things are growing new branches. So it just becomes this fruitful tree.
For sure.
Maybe it grows apples.
Maybe. Big apple hearts.
Yeah,
I dig it.
or cherries.
Whatever.
I don't know. Whatever floats your boat.
What-
Whatever blows your hair back.
Whatever blows your hair back. Yeah.
Hey, since
Nice
we're in the
refund.
hair
Yeah,
industry,
exactly. Yeah.
play on words,
Yeah, I'm not going to make fun of you about it. We're good.
Come
We're all
on.
good.
It was good. It was all right. It was cute.
So I live a very full life.
Yes.
But that wasn't something that I've always done.
Yeah.
I've struggled a lot with depression. I've struggled a lot with just confidence a lot. And I still struggle with it. Here's the thing: is that certainly what I'm learning is that there's no destination with these things.
Yeah.
There's not a time where like you're not depressed. There's not a time where you feel confident all the time. But it's to take advantage of the moments that you do and to recognize it. I'm very famously known for like I'll send you a text and be like, hey, how you doing? And it's because in those moments that I'm feeling confident that I want someone to feed off of that.
Yeah.
It's not the and when I'm feeling down or bummed out or depressed or whatever, I hope that I can get some of that back. No expectation to, but I hope I can get some of that energy back. Not the text, that was weird, but some of that energy back. So when I'm feeling my best and when I'm feeling confident, like I'm gonna reach out to a couple of friends and just give them a little high five, a little text message high five.
I love that. And I have a question I want to ask both of you.
Yeah.
So, because I think if we're all comfortable with saying it, we've all struggled with depression. I definitely went through my phase of it, and it was terrifying. And with everything I was going through in my journey, something that people always said to me, and I roll my eyes, but it was something that helped remind me, was they were like, I could never tell that you were going through something because you were always smiling. Like if it was anybody else, they wouldn't have been able to get through it. And for me, it was just kind of the stubbornness in my mind where I'm like, no, I am going to get through this. Forget F this, whatever this disease is, it's not going to define me, and I'm going to make my life better, come hell or high water. So they're like, yeah, it's easier said than done. But it was kind of like we've spoken about, that it was just that light bulb moment. It was a switch that went off, and I'm like, oh no, like, I'm being serious. It's not stopping me. And 3 years later, I'm healed. So I'm curious to ask both of you, what got you out of, if you could tell somebody who's going through a depressive time and thinks there's no light at the end of the tunnel, what could you tell them?
You're up.
I'm up. All right. If someone's struggling, I'm just going to repeat your question. If someone's struggling and doesn't see a light, how would I convince them that there is a light?
What advice would you give them?
Not necessarily just advice, because sometimes it's really hard to be receptive. Like when I had my moments where I didn't really see the light, I needed somebody to be that light, versus just saying, oh, everything's going to be okay, because that's like one of those eye roller things that you hear when it's like, yeah, everything is going to be okay. But giving someone that lifeline to hold on to, depending on how hard they're struggling, or even just, hey, do you want to go get ice cream? Do you want to go do something that makes you feel like you have that inner child and like boost that inner child? Whether it's going and dancing in the rain, like it sounds really corny, but sometimes just feeling alive, because a lot of people, when they don't see that light at the end of the tunnel, are having a hard time. They're usually numb and they need to literally feel something. So when people are like, oh, I just need to feel something, like, yeah, you're probably struggling a little bit, which is okay. And having that foundation and being able to be vulnerable with people, for sure. I've had a very long journey with being able to be vulnerable with people, because growing up, like in school and stuff, I went to an all-girls school. It was like, you can't talk about your emotions. Like, it would just be drama. You just get made fun of. So I wouldn't open up a lot, and I would take it and just roll with it and distract myself and be like stubborn with myself. Like, oh, like I'm going to get through this. Like, but I was also so young, I didn't know what it was. So I took it upon myself, and I actually moved to Montana for 2 years. I lived in the wilderness for 90 days. And at the beginning, it wasn't my choice. But then once I turned 18 and I was able to sign myself out, I didn't sign myself out. I signed myself in because I wasn't done yet. And I could have worked for that destination. But once I had goals other than going home, I was able to actually see, okay, here's some things I still need to work through. And here's some things that I'm always going to have to be working through. But it's a matter of having those tools and foundation. And I just remember before I went away, I would take these DBT classes and just roll my eyes. But how many days does it take to form a habit? Is it 27?
30.
I don't know what
30?
Pretty sure. 30. A whole month.
30, yeah. So once I was able to break some of the habits mentally and emotionally, it was just a lot easier to be able to talk to people and tell them what I need in the moment and everything, because I was able to be in that environment for so long. And then COVID happened and a lot of home visits got canceled. So that definitely was a big hump in all of it. But once I was able to come home and see all my friends, and I kind of in a way expected it to be just like it was when I left. And it was really hard adjusting to coming home for good when it's like, oh my gosh, everyone else has lives and continued them. I feel like I was just in a little bubble and just get to resume it when I get back. But once I'm like, I do get to resume my life in a way, but now I have all these skills and everything in my back pocket, and I get to start a whole new chapter. That's kind of cool. So
sounds like you had new belief systems.
Myself. Yeah,
new belief system.
The belief system part.
Yeah. It's interesting that you said I wasn't ready to come home. You know, because not in the sense of like to go home, but to be home. I wasn't ready to be home. You know, and that you had some work to do. I mean, that's some serious like evolution. That's some serious evolvement to say, oh, I've got an opportunity to be home, but I'm not ready to be home. You know, at 18
I had to
years.
be really honest with myself in that moment.
Of course you did. You know, so I mean, at 18, I can't imagine. I would not have made that decision. You know, I mean,
it's also a sense of fear to go back into possibility of going into old habits or triggers, old triggers.
I felt myself craving some of those old habits, whether it was being around some people that I would make terrible decisions around or certain substances. I was craving it because I'm like, I have the opportunity to go do that. I have that. It's just like a door just like kind of like peeked open. I can go home if I want to, but I was like talking to my therapist and I'm like, I need to stay here actually, because if I'm craving that, I need to figure out
There's
why I'm
more work.
craving it. There's a lot more work to do. Why am I craving it? What is the void that I'm trying to fill? I'm adopted from Russia. I came home when I was 15 months old, and the mom that I live with now is the most amazing person in the world. She's so selfless. She's so kind, and I'd like to say that's where I get my kindness from.
Oh, stop. I'll cry. I didn't know this.
Really?
Yeah.
Microphone. So my gotcha day is actually on her birthday. She brought me home from Russia on her birthday, and hopefully you'll get to meet her at some point. She's coming into the salon on Wednesday. I'm doing her hair tomorrow. So being able to grow up with somebody like that definitely made me. I like to still work on being selfless, and I'm trying not to be hard on myself when I shoot for an opportunity for myself, and I don't want to like leave someone in the dust or like come off the wrong way. Like I've definitely had moments where I've been feeling misunderstood because I don't want to come across as selfish, but I also, how do you describe going for your goals, but being honest with yourself, but trying to meet everyone's needs around you?
So again, everything that I say here is my own experience, you know, so it's not advice or whatever. It's just my own experience. And I've had to have these conversations, right? And what I know is that I'm a better selfless man when I've spent time to be selfish. Mm-hmm. You know, when I've spent time to like work on this, then there's more space. I have more space to give. You know, there's a time to take, and when you're working on yourself, when you're honestly working on yourself and not just using that as an excuse, which I think. Certainly when I was younger was, I can get away with this if I just say this.
Yeah. Oh, I'm working on it.
Yeah. And any time I've ever been in a situation where I've been like, well, if I just say this, you know, I know that I'm in the wrong.
Yeah.
If given the opportunity, well, I'll just say that. Well, then you're lying.
Yeah.
Right. And you're lying to yourself and you're lying to whoever, right? Like, you know, if that's the conversation you're having in your head, then that's not a truthful and honest conversation.
Yeah. I think I was lying to myself a lot with the whole adoption thing, because growing up, my family was always very open about it. Like I was always very open about it. It was something that I think I internally avoided for years and years because I didn't want to think about the deep things that go into it. If any of the viewers are adopted, you might like have some of those same emotions. There's that gap where you're like, especially if you don't know your birth parents, there's that gap where it's like, who am I? Why am I here? Why didn't they want me? Like those abandonment issues and everything. Working through those and seeing how they come out in relationships, for example, and being able to actually pinpoint the main reason why, like that's where it all started. That was my first experience ever, like not being taken care of. So then that need to be taken care of and validated definitely comes out in a lot of relationships, and being able to have a breakthrough with that, that was definitely a huge breakthrough for me. But obviously, like not everything is because of my adoption. Like, oh, I slept past my alarm. It's because of my adoption.
I failed my test. It's because I'm adopted.
It's a lot later in Russia.
I know, literally.
There's a time difference biologically.
That's hilarious. That's really good, though. That's good work.
Yeah.
I've back to the question.
Yes.
I think the question was, you know, what advice would you give people, whatever,
who can't see the light?
Who can't see the light? Yeah, I try to stay away from those. You know.
Yeah.
I try to stay away from those conversations. You know, I don't necessarily know if it's my place. I definitely, you know, I'm there for a hug. I'm there for, you know, what you need in that moment. But I'm not really one to give a lot of advice. How I've kind of worked through it is that I don't believe in walls. I don't believe you build walls from stuff. But what I do is I build guardrails. And what happens is guardrails are in front of the walls, right? So you have this big wall. This is an absolute. I'm not doing that.
Yeah.
You know, but then over the years, I realized that whenever I was approaching a wall, what happened before that? What was my thought pattern? What was going on in my life? In my life, I literally mean my life, not how you're impacting my life, but what's going on in my life to where I got to the wall.
Right.
Because the wall to me is off limits, you know. So I've created these strong guardrails, and I tried. For instance, I quit drinking when I was 29, and like 10 years later, like I'm just hanging out with some friends at a bar, but it ended up being like we were hanging out every night. I never drank or anything like that. But what started happening was I was like, oh, I wonder what that smells like. Oh, and then like the next night be like, oh, I wonder what that tastes like. I can clearly just like have a taste, right?
Right.
And then so this is kind of the disease, like chatting with you. So I had to create a guardrail there. And that guardrail was like, I'm not hanging out in bars. I'm not having these conversations in my head. And if I have this conversation in my head, what does that smell like? Understand that that's a guard. That's the thing.
Yeah.
Right. It's not. I could have carried it all the way over to climbing that wall and doing whatever.
Right.
You know. But I had to create a guardrail saying, okay, this is what happens. Mm-hmm. This is how I identify. I mean, for years and years and years, I loved ruining my life, and it took me years to realize that I love getting in my own way. It took me years to realize that I love ruining my life, and I had to have really strong conversations with myself about like, bro, this is it. Like, you've got to like step back. You've got to like these behaviors or these thoughts of behavior. It's usually thoughts that are, my guardrails are usually thoughts, because behaviors are, you're pretty much on the wall
right.
with any kind of behavior, right?
Was it like self-sabotaging?
Always, you know, and I still, and these are things too that all this I still struggle with. I just have a much better hold on it. And I have much earlier, I think that's the best way to put it. I have much earlier conversations with myself, right? About like, okay, why are we doing this? You know, where's your ego? It's always ego driven, right? Where's your ego? And what's your ego telling you? You know, and then to be able to be like, okay, like that's not good for you. You know, my goal in life is to always be my best self. Mm-hmm. You know, I've got this little dude that sits right here. Say hi. This little dude that sits right. He sits right here. And
so nice to meet you.
You'll never meet him. Neither will I. That's the point.
You don't want to be friends with him, Sophia.
No, so this dude is like the most perfect version of me. Right? Oh. So this is me. You know. And this is the most perfect version of me. Yeah. And I know that that's what I'm striving for all the time. What does that guy do when he opens the door? He doesn't have an expectation. Yeah. You know, when he's out with friends, he tries to stay engaged. Do I fail? About 90% of the time. You know, but I have a guiding light. You know, and it's something that I strive for, and it allows me to have the conversation with this version of me, which is the perfect me and how I want to be. And what it's not doing is having a conversation with this, which then creates, you know, self-sabotage or self-talk or bad talk. You know, there's nobody in the world that's worse at talking to me than me. Yeah. You know, it's funny. And it's interesting to me that like the conversations that we have with ourselves, I would never let you talk to me that way.
Right.
Yeah.
Right? Like I would never stand that from anybody outside of me.
Well, it's kind of like with siblings. You know, I have an older brother, and he was always like, I can talk to you like that, but they can't talk to you like that. Mm-hmm. I'm like, no. You can't even talk to me like that. But I get that. And what I was thinking while you were saying all that, being able to truly self-reflect and do an in-depth self-reflection, where I'm talking like sit in front of the mirror and have a conversation with yourself. You might look like a maniac and loony, but I'm not going to lie, I do that. And it's...
Yeah, I don't do that. I think you're on your own there.
Oh, okay.
But I mean, I definitely have hard conversations.
Well, you know, like, that's cool. That's cool. It's all good. No, but having that ability to really self-reflect is one of the strongest tools to have. It's one of the hardest things to do. And for years, I wasn't able to. I was lying to myself, let alone lying to others. You know? So being able to self-reflect is amazing.
Here's a crazy story about that, is my life changed in a shower. Nice setup, wasn't it? Yeah.
I love it.
Like it. Yeah, my life changed. So
it's also the best stage.
The shower?
Let me tell you guys, I'd be American Idol winner.
Dude, I sound amazing.
In the shower? I know. It's crazy,
it's
isn't
the
it?
best place.
Just like
so, So a couple things, and a little bit of backstory is my mom died when she was 45. I was 21. My entire childhood, she had cancer. Not looking for oohs and ahs, but this is just the story. My mom also worked for the Department of Education. So what this means, and what all this means, is that I never had an adult in my life that didn't know my mom's fate. Right, so whether it was neighbors, I mean, think about when you're a kid, who you're attached to. I'm attached to my neighbors. Mm-hmm. They were all friends with my mom. They all knew that my mom was sick my entire life, right? And also my teachers, and my teachers, because of where she worked, all my teachers knew my mom and they knew her fate, right?
Right.
I didn't know her fate, but they did.
Yeah.
So, growing up, I never had an adult or any adult role model that on some level didn't feel sorry for me, right? So for years and years and years, the only way that I identified with love was feeling sorry for me. And I would manipulate people to feel sorry for me so I could feel love.
Wow.
Right? So I'm 34 years old, and I wish Tony was here, but my friend Tony, he's very, very quiet, very, very, understated in a room, but he always commands the room. He's got this incredibly powerful kind of I walk in silent and I rule the room. And I didn't have that energy, especially in my early 30s, because, coming out of when I quit drinking at 29, coming out of that, it was all about the life of the party. That was me. I was the clown. I was this. And I couldn't understand for years, what he had. Yeah. And I was seeking that, not that I wanted to be him, but how does he just walk in the room and demand the room and not say a word, right? That's power, right? So I get in the shower. This happened as I'm thinking, as I'm getting in the shower, and then all this dawned on me about my mom. Well, it's because you set people up to feel sorry for you. Nobody respects you when they're feeling sorry for you, and not respect in a Godfather kind of way, but just respect your presence.
Right.
And also if you're a clown, you're going to be treated like a clown, you know, and I like to be a fun guy, but there's a big difference with that.
And there's a line.
There's a line. Exactly. Yeah. So two things happened is, I left that shower with the commitment that I would never make someone feel sorry for me again. Now I'm offended by someone feeling sorry for me, Yeah. And I have to have those conversations. And here's the other thing, back to guardrails, is that I know that if I manipulate someone to feel sorry for me, that there's some kind of depression that's creeping in. And I go, oh.
That's your sensor going off. Yeah, that guardrail.
That fires me up. Yep. Right, boom, that's it. So I have to kill that in the moment. Otherwise that repetitive thinking, that not sleeping at night, that stuff will take over. So I have to have it. Oh, this isn't what this is. This is something else.
Right.
So in that shower, literally my life changed, and in that moment, nobody feels sorry for me anymore. And all my own evolution has happened. It's all happened since I was. It's always happened in my life, but from the time I stopped drinking to there, it cleared everything out. And what it cleared out was that I'm not, back to belief systems, is I'm not this. I'm not this party guy. I'm not this anymore. Yeah. And it took me 4 or 5 years to kind of go to put that to bed. And it was still a lot of conversation. Go ahead.
I'm sorry to cut you off. I resonate with that. That really just hit my soul, because, and I don't have that long duration of dealing with that. But for a year, so symptoms started November of 2020. All of 2021, I was going through testing, different steroid treatments, whatever they could throw at me to try and help the symptoms. And it was in that year, and for part of 2022, that the doctor was like, all right, it seems like MS, so you have MS. That's what we're going to go with. So I was resonating for that year, and I went deep into that rabbit hole. I'm like, oh my gosh, I now have this lifelong debilitating disease, multiple sclerosis. And it wasn't until May of 2022 where my mom was like, let's just try holistic. Like, just give it a chance. And I'm like, you know what? I've got nothing to lose. Let's do it. And when I started to see that change, I was like, I'm not MS. This isn't me. I'm not going to be defined by that disease.
Right.
So that hit my soul big time.
Well, air fry. Let's do it. Let's clap it
yeah.
out. That's awesome.
Heck yeah.
Yeah. Another big thing that kind of happened, again, when I was in my mid-30s was that my wife, we were high school sweethearts. So, yeah, you do that, right? But what that really means, aside from being cute and, like, romantic, right?
Yeah.
Is that it means that we fought terribly. So like we fought like we were 17. Mm-hmm. We said things, we did things that were not very kind. Like I didn't date Sophia at 23, and she's like, I'm not being treated that way. Right. Because we never kind of, our evolution in a relationship ended the moment that we started dating. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So again, in my mid 30s, we fought a lot, and I just made a decision that I wasn't going to fight anymore. Like, you can fight with yourself, but I'm not going to fight anymore.
Yeah.
And that changed everything because, well, two things is that I had to control, right? And I had to identify what's happening physically to my body, and what it used to mean is like, I used to get this like tightness in my chest. And what it used to mean was like, Jenna, you got me here. Now you're going to pay for it. Right. I had to redefine what that meant.
Right.
Hey, I'm here, not Jenna's. I'm here.
Right.
Now what are you going to do with it? And whether good or bad, I just kind of remove myself from the situation because controlling that is very difficult,
Yeah.
So if I kind of remove from the situation, then I can kind of like, okay, who am I? What am I? And all that. But all those emotions like get you up. One of my big commitments too, and Cecilia can probably tell you a little bit too, is that I refuse to react. Mm-hmm. I don't react to any situation. I respond to all situations. And responding to a situation is just enough to take that beat. So when you're feeling it, like, take the beat and now respond. If you can't respond, don't react. If it takes you a day to respond, take a day to respond.
I'm working on that currently, just in general over the last year while I've been graduating school and everything. I know a lot of anxiety for me comes up when change comes up, and obviously like letting go of some certain belief systems and everything. So I lived in downtown Frederick while I was attending the Temple, which is where we're shooting right now.
Shout out.
Sharon.
Shout out to
the risers.
Yes.
And I graduated, which was like, obviously when you're in school, you're like, I don't want to be in school. But then once you leave, you miss it. And I moved 2 days after my graduation, so it was a lot of change and everything, and just I'm still adjusting to being home and starting at this new salon, which I am absolutely in love with. It's how I met
Shout
Jenna.
out Soto.
So just while forming new relationships with people and learning to respond, not react, is something I'm working on just in general.
You know what? And that hit me, guys. This whole episode, honestly, has just hit me with conversation after conversation. Because, like I told you, I'm Greek and I react.
I hear an excuse.
It's more of I like to call it
Let
an
me ask you
explanation.
this. I'm going to have the conversation with you like I had with myself.
Okay.
Has there ever been a time in your entire life where you've reacted and got a positive result?
No,
right. So here's the deal, is that even in the moment, like, again, I'll use my wife as the example, even in the moment where I felt really good, the long term of our relationship, I did something or said something in reaction that isn't good for the long term, isn't good for the big picture, and as you get older, you start to understand what the big picture looks like a lot better, and moments can't define the big picture. You can't let this moment destroy the big picture. You can't let this moment destroy what's in the future.
Yeah.
Because a lot of times we'll come out of that reaction and now we're defensive.
Yeah.
And reactive and defensive is terrible because then it's everybody else's fault.
Yeah.
And you don't learn anything.
Well, you refuse to, because once you're defensive, it's everyone else's fault. Mm-hmm. If it's everyone else's fault, what do you have to learn?
Wow. I'm just perfect. The rest of the world around me is just all their fault.
Well, then we're living in bubbles. I mean, we could go on for hours.
Let's do it.
Let's do it. Let's do
Pull an all-nighter.
What was the thing that they would do on TV back in the day? And they had people call in for bids or donations.
Oh yeah, like
the
like
call-a-thon things. I remember it on Full House.
Telethon.
They did it. Telethon.
Yeah.
Thank
We're
you.
gonna do a telethon.
Yeah, we should do a podathon.
Podathon.
Why not?
I love that.
Yeah.
That's a
Cellathon,
good
right?
idea.
Not
Yeah.
really telephone anyway. That's
Apathon, Texathon.
Whatever.
We
I
can
like a
put
texathon.
Ooh,
Yeah.
maybe we'll do something.
We'll just do a thon.
A thon.
Not to be confused with a thong.
Big difference there, guys. Big
Maybe.
difference. Corey, thank you for
Thank you.
coming
Thanks for
on to True Talk podcast and being part of the True Crew. But I have a question for both of you, actually,
Again?
since this is your first time.
Oh, this your first go?
Yeah.
Both of ours.
I know. I wish I had confetti for you or something, but the balloons aren't working. If you could have one superpower, what would it be?
You're up.
Super speed. I can sleep in later and just speed over to work like Dash from The Incredibles. I named my dog. I have a doodle named Dash.
Aw, it's from The
Craziest thing ever.
Incredibles?
Yep.
That's awesome.
Dash or Robert Parr.
I like it.
Corey?
If I could have one superpower, it'd be like to be super fast, and I'd give it to Sophia.
Extra speed.
Wait.
What?
No, your superpower.
I'd give it away
Why would you give it away?
because I'm full.
Oh, stop. Just melt my heart. Oh, my gosh.
Guys, I'm going to be extra fast.
She'll never be. You better tell Zoda.
Yeah.
What's the salon?
Soto.
Soto. You better tell Soto she'll never be late.
Yeah, guys.
She'll always be
Tony, Sophia, don't worry. We got her.
We got her. She's gonna be there.
Oh yeah.
Means I can go even faster on 70.
Don't do that.
I won't. Oh, I won't.
Yeah, no. We're gonna have a talk.
Zoom, zoom, zoom. Once again, guardrails.
Guardrails.
Yeah.
Guardrails.
Yes.
Like even let's use that as an example, right? Like by being, super fast on the highway, there's no destination on that highway that's worth the risk of either an accident or even a ticket. Because once you get a ticket, now you're late for everything because now you're going to have court dates. Now it's going to cost you so much money. How hard and how many haircuts do you have to do to pay for $1,000 fee?
Amen.
Right? And then ask you, is it worth it? Because to me, it's not
5
worth
under
it.
now.
No, yeah.
As
thank
you should, Grandma.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, like it's just not. You have to value life, and
Yes.
that is like it's not what I'm doing now, but it's like what is this going to cost me in the long run?
Right.
And not just money, but just like inconvenience.
Yeah.
Guys, food for thought. That was the best ending ever to an
Don't
episode. Now, the
You
more
missed the whole
deeper
point.
reason, Jesus.
She missed the point.
We'll work on her,
I'm
guys.
taking my speed back.
Taking his superpower back. Guys, don't be surprised if you see Corey on another episode because we could definitely go into way, way more. And I've just got ideas coming to mind. So thank you, Corey, so
welcome.
much
Thank you for having
again.
me.
It was an honor to speak with you. Thank you. Shout out to Temple in Frederick, Maryland for allowing us to record here. And guys, stay tuned for the next episode of True Talk Podcast. See you next time.
Thanks for listening to the True Talk Podcast. Make sure to follow and subscribe wherever you get your podcasts and stay tuned for more to come.